you need to realize that you're a person talking to people. You're not talking to your next payday.
Welcome to The Legal Edge, where we cut through the noise and get into what actually drives law firm growth. I'm your host, Rob Rosasco, so let's get started. My guest today is a plaintiff's trial lawyer who has packed a remarkable amount into a short career. Stolle Voigt is a partner at DLL Law, a Texas law firm handling personal injury and commercial litigation out of Plano and Houston. She's a trial advocate. She ran the trial advocacy program at Pepperdine Law School, finished first on the West Coast and second in the country in the national mock trial competition, and she's been in the fight ever since. But here's what got my attention. She's already been on both sides of the courtroom. She essentially started a career working for a plaintiff's firm, then moved to an insurance defense firm, and then came back to plaintiff's work, and she made partner faster than anyone I've talked to on this show. That combination so earlier in her career, the perspective of both plaintiff and defense work, and the speed of her climb is rare. And it's exactly the kind of thing our audience is trying to build in their own firms. But the part of her story that ties it all together started even before her legal career did. The lessons she was taught in childhood and a life-altering cancer diagnosis reshaped the way she thinks about work, her clients, and what she actually stands for. Stolle, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You shared with me during one of our earlier conversations that no one ever really thought of you as a future lawyer. And that really wasn't the plan growing up. And then you were presented with a sign and you ran with it. I want to start there, before your future career plans were even decided. Take me back to the version of you before a career in law was even a consideration, and walk me up to the moment that you knew that's what I want to do.
I was a pretty quiet kid growing up. If you talk to anybody that I grew up with, went to school with, before college at least, they would tell you that I was the kid who sat in the back of the classroom, minded their business, and just kind of did schoolwork, went home. I was a horse kid, and I grew up in the middle of nowhere. So it wasn't a super vibrant and lively childhood, so to speak, in that regard. But I was never told by people, oh, you should be a lawyer. You're going to grow up to be a lawyer, which is just a nice way of telling a kid that they're kind of annoying. I was never told that growing up. I was told I was smart and I had good qualities for whatever I wanted to do. Didn't do debate, none of that. Went to college, and first year college went great. I really flourished. And the summer after my freshman year, I got diagnosed with cancer. And it really just changed my life. It changed my life in a lot of ways. And I don't want to say that's exactly what I do. I wanted to be a lawyer, because it wasn't. I had to deal with some personal stuff and just get myself through that period. But the lawyer that we hired to help us with the insurance dispute for my treatment, who ended up becoming a really close personal friend and someone I still work with today, he shaped what I wanted to do with my life, because I saw what he did for me and my family. And I realized this is, I think that this is a sign from God itself, which you'll hear, I'm sure, in our other questions that we talk about today. I'm a big believer in signs from the universe, signs from God, whatever you believe in. I think things come to you when you're looking for something and looking for a reason. This was one of those reasons for me, and it just changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I'm so thankful for that. I wouldn't change a single thing.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I have to go back to something you said a few minutes ago. You were a horse kid? Tell me, what exactly is a horse kid?
Yeah, so this is kind of a chronically online type of thing, but they'll say you're a horse girl, and it's a type of quiet kid, maybe a little bit of an odd kid. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was Miss Popularity. I was not. I was a little bit of a weird kid growing up, and but I was obsessed with horses. I rode horses. I did rodeo, caring for the horses every morning and caring for my parents' ranch, and doing that is one thing that instilled a good work ethic in me. But I loved horses, and it was a big part of my personality when I was growing up.
I've never heard that phrase before, but I guess, not growing up on a farm or being anywhere near, well, that's not necessarily true. We have a lot of farms here where I live, but yeah, I didn't grow up on a farm. Don't know a great deal about it. So, but I think
girls who are listening, they'll get it. They'll know.
Understood. But I do think horses are, this is going to sound silly, I guess, but horses are cool. just to watch a horse run, watch a horse, regardless of their gait, whether they're just, I don't know, the different phrases for how a horse moves, galloping, or they're just so powerful and majestic, and horses are cool. So,
hey, you got a fan right over here. I love horses. I think they're awesome.
So tell me a little more about the experience with, I guess, the attorney that your family hired, and how exactly that shaped your path and your perspective, and how you became a better advocate because of the experience that you had in watching how he defended your family's rights.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the misconception, and he was a defense attorney at the time, actually. So it was a lawyer that my dad had hired on previous business matters. And when this tragedy kind of struck, all of a sudden, you don't think about what type of law the lawyers that practice. You just start reaching out to people for help because you're in a crisis mode. Luckily, this lawyer, he also did insurance defense and medical malpractice defense. He knew a lot of doctors. He was able to help us with connections in the city and get me into a really good oncologist. And then it was kind of like, let's get you into a path of stabilization, and then let's talk about the problems, right? And we can fix the money problems, we can fix the insurance problems, but let's get you to a point where we're on a path to recovery and a path to brighter days.
Yeah.
He was so helpful with that. And for that, I'm forever thankful. I mean, he's one of my best friends, even though we work together. If I called him right now, I guarantee you he'd pick up on ring 2 and be like, what do you need? What's going on? So just an all around good person. But I had a really misconceived perception of defense lawyers at the time, especially insurance defense lawyers, that they only defended big companies. They only defended people who had done something wrong. And it wasn't a matter of did they do it or did they not, but how much what they did was going to cost.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily an untrue perception in a lot of cases, having come from defense work myself. However, what I saw from what he was able to do for my family was a whole other side of the game, which is he was doing what he needed to do for his career. He was really, really good at it. Clearly, he's now on the plaintiff side. It was a path that I kind of followed and modeled for myself as well. But I saw the difference that someone with a proper legal education and experience in this area can make for somebody, because my claims were outright denied. We were paying out of pocket for everything. And I was very, very fortunate to have a family that had savings that could make that happen. But if you're put in that position and you're somebody who's young and just started and doesn't have a savings, or your family's already gone through a lot and they're barely making ends meet as it is, this is a completely life-altering thing. And sometimes the only people that can help you are lawyers, because insurance does not make it easy to fight for yourself. They make the whole process hard enough as it is. The language is confusing. And I'll tell you, Rob, I've dealt with it myself later on in life for people, but we've had insurance adjusters on the phone tell us that you can hire a lawyer, but it's going to be expensive. So we recommend not doing that. And I mean, it's crazy. So I saw him help us, and I was forever grateful for what he did for me in helping me get over this illness and extend my life and everything in that regard. And I said, you know what? I want to work for you, and I want to learn what you do and see if this is for me. And it ended up being one of the best things that I could have done for myself. I loved the work. I loved what I was able to do for people. And I'm not a doctor. I'm afraid of blood. I'm afraid of guts, which is funny because I do see that stuff in my work, but I don't want to be like hands-on in it. This is the next best thing I could do to make a real difference in people's lives on a day-to-day basis. Truly.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things you did not share with me during our initial conversations that you did just now was the fact that he sort of epitomized the dictionary definition of advocate. He was not only fighting for your legal rights as it relates to insurance coverage, but to reach out to doctors. I mean, he didn't have to do that. And I can only imagine the lessons it taught you, not only as a future attorney, but as just simply as a human being, to do the right thing, to help people. And I'm assuming you've carried that now into your professional career as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's times where I have to make sure that I'm setting healthy boundaries between what is my career and what is my personal life, because if I am burning the candle at both ends, I'm not going to be able to burn for the people that I'm working for. But at the same time, I always make sure that I'm able to go that extra mile. If I have the ability to, I'm going to go that extra mile for anybody. And there's been times where we've had people call our office and the case is either really, really small or it's just not viable profit wise. At the end of the day, this is a business, right? I will take things on pro bono. I will. I can't do it for everyone, but there's some people that, they just really, they need the help. And I sleep better at night knowing that I'm giving everything I've got for people here on this earth with me while I've got the time and ability to do it. And that's a lesson that I learned from Micah. That, he did that for me and he didn't have to. And he was technically what I would consider, he was on the dark side. He was doing defense work. He completely flipped to help me and do everything he could. He pulled every connection that he could for me and my family. And I mean, you can't forget that. And that's a lesson that I brought with me forever, because I think that God teaches you things and for a reason. So I held on to that and I've tried to use it every single day in my career.
Okay. And not to beat a dead horse, but not only did it make you a better attorney, it made you a better human being. I mean, at the end of the day.
100% agree. 100% agree. That diagnosis in and of itself changed who I was as a human. I think it made me a better person. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through, but it changed my personality, it changed my outlook, it changed how I treated people. If there's any country fans here, that song by Tim McGraw, Live Like You're Dying, when you go through something, it really resonates and you just kind of have a different set of lenses in how you look at the world.
Yep, understood. Did you ever get the opportunity to ride a bull named Fu Manchu?
No, but I was a rodeo girl, so I've come
There you go.
experiences. Yeah.
All right, so now I want to talk about what I believe is your real edge. And it's not something most lawyers have on their CV. You've worked on both sides. You've defended insurance companies. You've worked with plaintiffs, defended the rights of plaintiffs. And something you said to me during one of our prep calls that I want you to defend on the record. You told me that plaintiffs' attorneys who have defense experience are better for it, are better attorneys because of it. Why do you think that is? Sort of defend that opinion for me.
Absolutely. The proof's in the pudding itself. If you meet a good plaintiff's attorney, now there's always the exception to the rule. There's somebody who's been a career plaintiff's attorney and they're one of the best in the world, 100%. But if you boots down, look at some of the best trial lawyers in the country, some of the best plaintiff's attorneys in the country, all of them have something in common, and that is experience on the defense side. There's a reason why our firm, beyond our associate, who was a paralegal for a really long time and went to night school to become a lawyer, outside of her, every single lawyer at our firm has spent years on the defense side, and we primarily look to hire lawyers who have spent time on the defense side. That's because you know their playbook. I know when I look at a case, when I get an intake, before I even know all of the facts, I can already tell what a potential value might be, some of the pitfalls that I might have, some of the automatic strengths that I might have, the venue. I know if it's defense friendly or if it's plaintiff friendly, the judges there, how do they play and how do I see them from the defense side and how I see them from the plaintiff side. But most importantly, I have the inside knowledge of what adjusters are thinking, because at the end of the day, what common people don't understand is your lawyers are really working against the adjuster. The defense attorney is a face for the adjuster, having been on that side. I'm not writing the check. I'm making recommendations to the company and I'm telling them what I see and what I think the case is going to do. But it's the insurance company that makes the choice as to whether or not we go to trial, what they're valuing the case at, and the money that they're going to spend on the case to defend it. So I have all that inside knowledge. I know exactly how defense attorneys are writing their reports and what they're saying to adjusters. And I know what they're saying as far as what their value is. They're taking my number, they're discounting it by a certain percentage, and that's what they're sending over to the adjuster. Having that knowledge, even just going into mediation, I 9 times out of 10 can figure out where a case is going to fall on the settlement range. And usually I'm within a couple of grand on that, which is great because I can prepare my client and say, look, every case is different and your case has different facts than the one that went to trial and got $1 million, 100%, right? We don't know what a jury of 12 people is going to say about your case.
Right.
But here's what I think the other side is thinking. And here is my level of reality for you of if you want this case to be done today, this is about the range that I think that we're going to have to be at. If you don't have defense experience, that's a really hard thing to understand unless you've been a plaintiff's attorney for years and years and years and years, right? And you got experience, you know. But if you're a younger attorney and you want to break into plaintiff's world, 100% do some time on insurance defense, learn that stuff, get hungry over there, become successful, start climbing that ladder over on insurance defense, and then pull the eject button, go over to plaintiffs, you're going to kill it. You really are.
So as a partner, and I'm assuming you have a voice in bringing on hiring new attorneys, is looking for some defense experience on their resume something that you consider when looking at a young lawyer?
Absolutely. It's, there's the exception to the rule, obviously, but we primarily are screening for somebody who's had experience on the defense side. So they know, one, what we're thinking and what we're looking at and what to do to advocate for their clients.
Yep. Okay. You earned your partnership at your firm earlier than most. And every law firm owner listening right now is thinking in the back of their mind, I have a young attorney who I want to hold on to. I want to keep at the firm. I think could one day become a partner here at this firm, but they're not quite ready. They're not there yet. How do I keep them engaged? How do I keep them here so we can take advantage of this young, powerful mind prior to them, again, earning a partnership? Keeping in mind the fact that you did earn your partnership early in your career, if a law firm owner wanted to build a similar career path for an associate at their firm, how would you recommend they go about doing that?
Well, I think part of it is being honest with the young attorney, which my mentors were with me. I had a couple of attorneys that I worked with who sat me down, and they're still mentors for me to this day, who said, look, you've got talent and you've got drive, and I can see that you want this. The biggest weakness that you have right now, Stolle, is that your desire to be great is almost bigger than your understanding that you have so much more to learn, which is totally fair. I've always been an ambitious person, and I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I just deserve this, right? But I want it and I want to work hard and I want to get it. How can I work harder, faster to get what I want quicker? Not just because it should be handed to me, but because I've earned it. But there's only so many hours in the day and I only have so much energy. So I have to be patient, and that is really hard. So talking to that young attorney, that ambitious young attorney, you're going to know if they have a partnership potential. It's just, you see it in somebody. They have that thing, just like trial lawyers have that thing. You either have it or you don't. I don't know how to describe it. But talking to them and saying, look, I see your ambition. I see what you're going for. And I'm telling you, you're going to reach it. But you need some experience. We can't put an 18-year-old walk-on freshman out at quarterback for Alabama in a bowl game. We can't do that.
Oh, my God. Did you just say Alabama?
I know. I'm sorry. I know I'm forgetting. Or Eagle. But that's the best analogy I can say is,
understood.
You can't do that to somebody because it's going to crush your confidence. One,
agreed.
And it's going to change the way that you're looking at the profession. And we don't want that for you. So what people did for me is they said, look, this is the path. Let's start with baby steps. And actually, a defense attorney I worked for, he made me the managing associate, which really taught me a lot about what it meant to manage people, how to manage a higher docket, how to kind of put on a little bit of that boss hat, because now I was dealing with people who weren't always living up to the expectations we were setting. They weren't always getting their work done on time, having to have those hard conversations. Putting somebody in a smaller managerial type role or even role with a little bit more responsibility and teaching them and allowing them the experience to grow without it being a life or death type situation when you have a partnership, that's going to help that young attorney. It's also going to help them feel like they have a little bit of a reward system too. But I truly think the honesty level there of explaining the path that you see for them, especially if it's with your firm, walking them through how to get there with you, that's going to keep them. It really is.
Okay. And I'm curious, what taught you patience earlier in your life. That's number one. Number two, you described a situation in which a superior, a mentor, shared with you that perhaps your ambition was a little more significant in the moment than was your experience or skill set. So obviously, in hearing that, you needed to be humble. You needed to hear that, and a lot of people won't or wouldn't hear that. They would be offended in some way. So, one, I'm curious, what taught you patience, and when did you learn to be humble? How would you try to bring those qualities out in a younger associate so that they accepted that advice as well as you did?
Yeah. So the bad part of this answer is I learned because I got smacked down.
Okay.
And it wasn't in a necessarily professional sense, but I learned patience just actually just going back to my health stuff. I learned patience that way. I was living life. I was 18. I was going out. I was in Greek life. Like, life was great. I had a new boyfriend. Everything was just awesome. High school me, gone. Thing of the past. Whole new me, doing awesome. And then boom, cancer diagnosis overnight. Life changed. I needed to slow down and take my life and my health seriously. And my parents and a lot of people in my life joke that I turned 40 overnight. I completely just a different person. That taught me patience because I could not do anything to speed up this process. I couldn't do anything to change what was happening to me. I couldn't do anything to rectify the situation any quicker than what the doctors told me was going to happen. They said, we have this timeline. You have treatment on these days, and at the end of it, we'll reevaluate and we'll see if you're better. So not even at the end of this, you're going to be great. You're fine. You're cured. At the end, we'll reevaluate and see if you're better. So that right there really teaches you quickly to be patient because you don't have any other choice.
No, and you have no control.
No control. So for 6 whole months, I had to completely do what somebody else told me to do. Follow it to a T, sit down, do the test, wait for results, go to treatment again, sit down, do the test, wait for results, wait till that end date. And I was very fortunate to get the news that, hey, you're cured, everything's good. But at 18, when you're in college and you're starting your life and things are just going so great for you, that's a really hard thing to do. No, you're not going out to bars anymore. You are immunocompromised. You can't just be going on spontaneous road trips with your friends, but watching everybody else do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's really tough. So I learned a lot of patience through that. And then in my career as well, instilled those same virtues, but a lot of times in work, we get the we need this now type of vibe from people that we work with. When I was working with insurance adjusters, it was the same thing. Hey, I need this. Well, that's great behind the scenes. In practice, it makes more sense to sit down and think about the chess game that you're playing. Okay, we got these different moves that we can make. Let's think through what this move would do and what the other side could do with that. Does it make more sense to wait? Should we do and designate all this stuff before mediation early? Should we wait until after mediation because we're not in such a great position? Let's go see what we can do at mediation. If it fails, then we'll spend the money and we'll get the experts and we'll designate. I was not super good at that at the beginning just because I didn't know. I didn't understand the game I was playing. My mentor sat me down and was like, look, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint sometimes. And we have to think about what the long-term ramifications of the choices that we're making in litigation are, because once we file something, we can't really just unfile it. Once we make a choice, it's in motion. They put me on smaller cases and let me just run with it. And I was lead counsel. I had a managing partner, but I was running the whole thing. That taught me right there on a low stakes game how to be patient, how to start making decisions in a timely manner, but in an effective manner. And even sometimes making decisions early on, but holding off on putting them into action until later when it was better for my client.
Right. Okay. So how do you teach young associates that? And after you answer that, to close this out, what is the single most important or one bit of advice you would give to a young associate that is hoping one day to move into a leadership role at their firm?
Okay, yeah. I honestly think you can answer both those questions with the same type of thing. So,
Yeah.
my advice to people who are in a managerial role over a young associate, find a low stakes case, whether it's plaintiff or defense side, find a low stakes case, let that young attorney run with it. Keep your eyes on it. But at the end of the day, when they're coming to ask you for questions, unless it's a legal question that they would not be able to research and find the answer to, if it's an actual practice type question, yes, help them. Otherwise, kind of let them tough it out. It's sink or swim out here in litigation. And the only way to, yeah, the only way to grow and learn is by doing. This is not something that you can learn just from a book. You can't try a case by learning it from a book. You got to do it. You got to do it and learn from your mistakes and say, oh, you know what? That didn't work so good. Next time, I'm going to implement this skill instead. Give that young attorney a $30,000 policy limits case. At the end of the day, the worst that happens is an insurance company is out 30 grand. At the end of the day, if you're a plaintiff's attorney, if you've got medicals, the worst that's going to happen is the jury probably just awards the medicals and not the full 30K. Best case scenario, no, but it's not the end of the world. Stop completely just looking over a young attorney's shoulder to make sure that they're doing things perfectly. Let them make mistakes on the small stuff so that way they have the confidence to move on to the bigger stuff where you can be there as a wingman for them, but watch them flourish. It's going to
Yep.
completely change the way they practice law. That's what people did for me. And I felt I was able to grow a lot quicker and a lot faster just by having the ability to make mistakes and run my cases how I wanted to and learn from that.
Yep. Okay. And I think that we learn at a very young age. The best way to teach your kids is allow them to make their own mistakes. So I guess it sort of fits here as well.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need to give them a commercial trucking case. Give them a fender bender between two
Yeah.
minimum policy limit holders. It'll be okay. It will.
Yep. It will be okay. Um, all right. So, in the final segment, I want to talk about reputation. You shared a phrase, a line with me that actually made me chuckle when we talked initially. Tell me a little bit about that phrase. Everybody hates us, so they need us. And where do you think that reputation comes from?
Yeah, and that phrase, it does ring true. I find that if I make fun of the profession lightheartedly, especially on my social medias and everything, it really breaks that barrier between the us and them perception. Lawyers, they're put on a pedestal. I don't think that we should always be put on a pedestal. For some reason, we are. I guess it's the higher education type thing. It's the same with doctors. But it does make it an us and them situation when it comes to clients, especially when you do personal injury. They see us on the billboards, they see us on the commercials, and it seems like that lawyer is almost an entirely different entity than just a human being that you see on the street. I do what I say I'm going to do. If I call you and you're my client and I give you my plan of attack and I say, look, this is what I want to do for your case, I'm prepared to try your case. I do not say those words unless at the end of the day, I will take this case to trial. And there's
Mhm.
some cases, Rob, that they call and I say, look, this is not a case I would try, but I think that there's settlement value here. I do. And let's work towards that number and let's just talk about the reality of your situation. And if this is what you want, I'm happy to take you on and we will work towards that.
Right.
But being honest with the people who hire me, that builds trust. I will never tell somebody that I'll try your case when I know in the back of my mind these facts are not that great and I wouldn't want to put them in front of a jury. I'm just not going to tell them that because if they want to try it, I'm going to back out and I'm not going to be the person who doesn't do what they say they're going to do. So there's that. And everybody hates us, but they need us because without us, there is no change in policy. There is no justice for wrong things that happen to people. Plaintiffs' attorneys are the reason why there's federal regulations on things.
Mhm.
They're the reason why there are warnings on drugs and chemicals. They are the reason why Roundup Weed Killer now has to specifically state that some of their chemicals could cause cancer and advising you to wear PPE when using it. Without us, people would continuously get hurt by big corporations who do not care about what their product does or warning others about those risks. until they are sued and held financially responsible for what they did. There's a lot of bad plaintiffs' attorneys out there. There's a lot of plaintiffs' attorneys that are just going to take your money, and they look at your case and they don't think, I'll try it. They think, oh, I'll just settle it and it's quick money for me and whatever the client. That's not me. And I think that's how you build trust with people. And there's a lot more plaintiffs' attorneys out there than people realize that are like me, that are going to see you for what you are, which is a human being who suffered something rather than just a dollar sign. 100%.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you completely. Having 25, 27 years of experience working with attorneys, specifically on their marketing, practice of law is like any, vertical, in the business world, there's going to be good ones, there's going to be bad ones, but I think there are far more good ones than there are bad ones. And that holds true on either side of the aisle too. There's going to be good defense lawyers, there's going to be bad defense lawyers, there's going to be good plaintiffs lawyers, there's going to be bad plaintiffs lawyers. So, but I think far and away your point is well taken in that, without plaintiffs attorneys, the billionaires of the world, the awful companies out there, because again, there's good ones and bad ones, but the awful companies out there would run roughshod over us. So yeah, I'm glad we have plaintiffs attorneys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a necessary. People would say it's a necessary evil. I don't think we're evil, but litigation is itself a necessary evil. You need it to make change.
Right. And unfortunately, and I've had this conversation countless times with attorneys, but the system is set up such that the only way that companies that take advantage of people can be held accountable is through some sort of monetary award. You can't smack the CEO of a company in the back of the head and say you shouldn't have done that. It doesn't work like that. So, unfortunately, it is often about the money, but that's how we keep them in check. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I deal with that a lot, actually. I represent a lot of sexual assault victims. I actually just filed a big case last Wednesday. It's in the news right now, and I've been seeing a lot of online hate about how this is a money grab. But at the end of the day, the person that I believe was sexually assaulted, her assailant got what I would consider to be a sweetheart deal criminally. He's out on 2 years probation. You may call it a money grab. I call it the last line of defense because clearly the criminal justice system failed her, in my opinion. I can't put someone in jail. I can't. But I can hold somebody financially responsible. And while I agree behind bars is probably the best option, I'm working with what I got here. Right. Give this woman peace and give her justice. And I'm happy to do that. If you want to call it a money grab, that's on you and you're conscious, that's fine. I sleep well at night knowing that I'm providing sometimes the last line of defense for people. And that's all.
And the sad fact about that is if those people calling it a money grab were involved in some way, a loved one of theirs, their wife, their sister, someone, a good friend, whatever the case might be, they would be lined up right behind you to fight with you, side by side. That's the sad fact is people, unfortunately, have very narrow opinions and very narrow perspectives, and they don't see the world through other people's eyes, sadly.
Completely agree.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, as we've already discussed, plaintiffs' attorneys get a bad rap when it comes to, billboards. And, we all see the TV spots, with an attorney standing on the top of a tractor trailer yelling about getting, multi-million-dollar settlements. The natural distrust of plaintiffs' attorneys kind of stem from that. But how, in your opinion, does a plaintiff's firm market aggressively enough to be able to compete, but to not create a marketing product that makes people roll their eyes?
Yeah, and that's a tough one. I'm not going to lie. That is a tough market to navigate. I'm navigating it myself because while I work for my firm, I also have my own firm, which is I Object, and that's what I market online through social media. It's difficult. It's difficult to market yourself professionally, but also catch attention, but not look like the billboard lawyer who's smashing the truck with a hammer, but also let people know, hey, I do get big verdicts, but not make yourself look like you're a money hungry money grabber saying like, look at all this money that I got. So It's a really tough area to navigate. I think that authenticity is one of the biggest things that has worked for me. When clients give me permission, I like to sit down and interview them and ask them about their experience with me. To the extent they allow me to share that online, I do. Sometimes people will allow me to share their video. Sometimes people will just allow me to quote them and put it on our website, or they'll just do a Google review. It's really all about what people are comfortable with. But I think marketing your true results, not the billboard attorney that says 1 billion collected and then there's a little asterisk next to it and it says, but 500,000 actually went to clients because we take our attorney's fees. I think actual authenticity is really, really important. And my firm, when we do market settlements, when we market money made for a client, if we're specifically saying amount collected for a client, we're already taking out what the attorney's fees and expenses were. So the number you're seeing, that is what hit a client's bank account. And I will stand 10 toes down on that and say that that is important for people to know. They want to know when they're hiring an attorney that they can get a good result, 100%. But sharing experiences beyond just numbers is something that I think more plaintiffs attorneys should lean into, to the extent their clients are comfortable with that, because it goes to show who you are as a human. And anybody who goes on our website and reads Google reviews, like, I don't mean to toot my own horn with this, but I take real pride in customer satisfaction and making sure that people work with me are not just working with my paralegal, they have access to me. And my reviews will speak to that. And that I want people to know you are working with Stolle. You have access to my email. You have access to my personal phone number. You have access to my text board. You will be able to reach me to the extent that I am not across the world or in trial. I will be getting back to you within 2 days, if not sooner. Market on what you provide for people beyond monetary value, because a case can take 3 years. There's that saying, love will keep us alive, right? But money also keeps you alive. Well, when the money's not there, you need the love. And it's hard to find an attorney that's actually going to care about you and know who you are beyond a billable number or just a file name. Well, I believe in boutique firms over big box firms a lot of the time. But the billboard attorneys, they're not marketing that because they can't stand on that. They can't stand on those values. So if you're a boutique, you're a small person, sole member, law firm, whatever it is that your thing is, market who you are as a person and what you're providing to the people individually before that check hits. That's going to bring people to you, because I would rather hire somebody who's going to bring me comfort through those 3 years of hell that we got to go through than somebody who's going to call me once a quarter and say, yeah, we're still negotiating.
Without even using your name or the person's name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they pulled out a file and making the obligatory quarterly phone call.
100%. Or they call you and you do happen to pick up and they say, hi, I'm Mrs. Brown. And they're like, who?
Yeah.
If someone calls name and say, oh my gosh, Tanya, how are you? I hope things are well. Last time we spoke, you were going through this. Did that resolve? I try to the extent that I can, I try to keep tabs on people personally, because we are working together and this is a business relationship, but it's also a partnership. I'm only as good as what my clients are for me. If they're not willing to help me, their case isn't going to go super well. So we got to help each other.
Yeah, agreed. And, it was proven to you early on when, again, back to your cancer diagnosis, when, that attorney, Micah, you were a client and you know what that means or what that meant to you. So now you know what it means to your clients.
Absolutely. That I don't even have a better way to explain it. This is a very personal job. People forget that because we're in the suits and we're in the big buildings, and sometimes you get lost in it because you go and you just talk big numbers. Sometimes I have a warped sense of reality of what other people are living through on a day-to-day basis and the struggles they face, because I just got out of this crazy meeting where the only numbers we were discussing were 7-figure numbers, and it takes you out of reality sometimes. But you got to go back down and remember you're dealing with somebody, you're dealing with their family, or you're dealing with the estate who lost a loved one at such a young age that they don't even know how to comprehend that.
Right.
You need to realize that you're a person talking to people. You're not talking to your next payday. You're not talking to the next, meal on your table for your family. You're talking to somebody who went through something really, really terrible, and you need to bring humility to that.
And with every zero you add to a settlement, the experience that your client or their family has gone through is exponentially worse. The only reason you're talking about big numbers is because something really awful happened to someone.
100%. And that's actually something I tell our clients sometimes, because of the billboard attorneys, when people call, they think that every case is worth $1 million or more. And I have what you just said to me. I've had that conversation with people to bring them down to reality. I say, you're not going to like what I have to say to you right now, but you are really, really fortunate that your case is in the $100,000 or less range. You're fortunate for that because you have all four limbs. Yep. You have all of your family members sitting here right now. You have the ability to talk to me. You have the ability to continue to work. And while that may not be exactly what you wanted to hear, I want you to realize how fortunate you are that we aren't talking about more money, because it would mean your life has changed permanently and forever.
Yep.
That's not what you want, truly.
Right. Agreed. And shame on the person who has a different perspective. When you and I talked initially, you shared with me that you had some crazy cases that would be interesting to hear. So I'm going to put you to the test. Share with me a crazy case or two that you've worked on.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. So I have a whole different outlook on wearing jewelry while working now, especially growing up on a farm. I never even thought about this. Not that I was wearing a bunch of jewelry as a 12-year-old kid, mucking stalls, but still, I've had cases, degloving cases, which are insane. You're wearing your wedding ring and then you're working on a barbed wire fence, and the next thing you know, your wedding ring gets caught under the barbed wire fence and the entirety of your finger, except for your bone, goes with it. Oh my gosh.
Ugh. Okay.
And then car washes. Oh my goodness. I've seen a guy. I'm sure you've seen Final Destination. Everybody's seen Final Destination.
You know what? Actually, I have not.
Okay, well, but you know the premise, right?
I do. Absolutely, I do. Yes.
All right. So this was actually my very first case as a defense attorney. My very first deposition. I just started this firm. They sat me down. They said, "Hey, we need you to cover this deposition. Just like sit there. We're defending the car wash." I said, "Okay, whatever." So I go and I sit down. They didn't tell me anything. I didn't know what I was doing. We were deposing the witness who watched the death happen. Wish they would have briefed me on that. I just sat down. I was like, okay, oh my gosh. So it's just a little accident. I bet it was like one car that ran into another. Nope, not at all. So this guy, he was working the car wash, and he was the guy who's like, yeah, move over a little bit, keep going, and then put your car in neutral.
Yep.
He stepped into the conveyor belt of the car wash, and it just sucked him in, and it was all on video. And in the first 2 minutes of my very first deposition as a baby defense attorney, they say, okay, we're going to bring up Exhibit A. Click Exhibit A, and it is the entire death of this man. And I was like...
And you watched this man get dragged through the car wash.
I did. Oh. I did. And I immediately, the deposition ended. They said, defense counsel, do you have any questions? I was like, no.
No.
Where's your trial? And I went down to my managing partner's office, and I was like, what was that? You couldn't have at least briefed me on that? Are you kidding? So there's that. And then here's an example of cases that plaintiff's attorneys should, these are the types of cases that give plaintiff's attorneys a bad rep. There was a guy in a parking garage on his break from work. He decided to go up to the top of the garage, smoke some weed. All right, whatever. People's hobbies, their business is their business.
Yes, agreed.
So he goes to sit up on the ledge, and he was so high he overshot it and he fell to his death at the bottom of the garage. So they sued the company, and I was on the defense side. We were like, what did we do? We didn't give him the joint. We didn't tell him. So that's an example of truly, that is money grab opportunities right there. Because, when I hear those facts, I'm like, look, I'm sorry for what happened to your loved one, but there are consequences to our actions. It's not always someone else's fault.
Correct. So summary judgment,
that actually ended up being an early settlement. I had to sit down with the other attorney, and I was like, look, you may be in a plaintiff's friendly venue. Like I hear you on that 100%. And I hear you on the optics, but at the end of the day, I do think that this is summary judgment eligible. We are going to file a lot of paperwork on this because we do have a good position defense-wise, which I will admit we don't always have. Yeah. So this is how the insurance company is going to take advantage of, and they're going to throw their money at because they can win. And I would advise you to tell your client to heavily consider the offer that we're making. And if you need like a little bit more to make you look like a good guy, I hear you on that and I'll do what I can to throw a little extra there, but this is kind of where it's at. Sometimes having those heart to heart conversations with opposing counsel is necessary, but it tends to work.
And it did that time?
It did. It did. It was another younger attorney and they understood and they actually called me later and they said, I appreciate you not just pulling the rug out from under me and saying, hey, this is best and final. That's it. We'll see you in trial and never make another offer.
Right.
I wouldn't want someone to do that to me, but you needed to hear it from somebody else that this is not going to go well. And it's going to be a really long process.
Again, you made a really good point at the beginning of that story. Sometimes people just have to accept, even when it results in your demise, you just have to accept responsibility for your actions. Yeah. He made several bad choices.
Yeah.
An unfortunate outcome, absolutely. But all right, so now some rapid fire questions. So I've got a handful of questions, short questions, and I'd ask for short answers. So question number 1, what is your earliest memory of wanting to be successful?
Sports. 100% sports. I won a trophy. We won a tournament. That was it. I was hooked. I like it.
Hey, trophies will do that to you.
Yeah, 100%.
The best career advice you've ever got?
Ask for what you want and work to put yourself in a position where you're deserving of it.
Oh, very good. I like that. Man, I might write that down. Okay, good. All right. Your favorite legal movie?
Lincoln Lawyer.
Good. Now, you like the movie? Have you seen the series as well?
Yeah, I like the series, but I'll tell you what I like about the movie. He's a government attorney, but he's got this crazy hillside house in LA. I lived in LA. There ain't no way. I find that movie to be so funny.
Agreed. Understood. Yeah. Okay. Biggest misconception about plaintiff's attorneys?
Unfortunately, it's that we're all ambulance chasers. It's not true.
Fair. What is one quality that every trial lawyer needs?
You need the ability to discuss the weakness of your case with the jury and tell them point blank, here is the bad part of my case, and I'm going to tell you before they do. Prick the boil. Okay. 100%.
Yeah,
and that's
good.
really hard to do.
Yeah. And you take their power away. You offer it first.
You do.
All right, very good. I like that. What is your favorite way to recharge outside of work?
So me and my husband, we travel around to rock concerts, 80s hair band rock bands.
Really?
Yeah. We're actually huge Rolling Stones fans. We flew to Cleveland, Ohio for their last concert. And if they do go on tour again, we will be flying to wherever that is. But
very cool.
The Eagles, Rod Stewart, that's how we recharge.
Oh, interesting. Have you heard any new music off the Foreign Tongues album?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. And the Eagles. Actually, I'm a big Eagles fan as well. And one of the best concerts I've ever experienced was seeing the Eagles at the Sphere in Las Vegas.
I didn't see them there, but I did see them when they came to Dallas and they played their show. I mean, they started the show with Hotel California. I was like, wow, well, it's going to be a great night. If that's how we're starting and opening, it's going to be great. Yeah, and it was.
Agreed. And I saw them for the first time here I live in the DC area, so I saw them here probably 15 years ago. And absolute bucket list item was to see Hotel California live. So
100%. It was phenomenal.
Yes, agreed. And one of the things I would strongly recommend if you and your husband can find time is to get to Las Vegas and go see them at the Sphere. It's incredible. It really is. Okay. All right. Lastly, give me one word that defines your career.
Accelerated. And I think that's kind of the theme of this segment. Just shoot. I put my boots down and I started running and I didn't stop and it worked.
Good for you. No, absolutely. All right. Stolle, thank you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. And as importantly, I've enjoyed our numerous conversations building up to this recording. So thank you. So for law firm owners, attorneys, marketers who are listening out there and want to connect with you, how should they go about doing that?
Yeah, 100%. I'm all on social media. TikTok is my biggest page, actually. I'm I_object_. But you can also reach out to me through our DLL website. And then I love to market myself personally. You can always reach me personally by email. It's Stolle Stolle at dll-law.com.
Okay, very good. So again, Stolle, thank you. I really appreciate the time you've invested in this and the stories that you've shared and the life experiences you've shared with us, giving us a sort of a peek behind the curtain in terms of the journey that you've traveled. And it's very important to me for people to be honest and genuine. And you've done that. You've been that throughout, again, all of our conversations. So if this episode gave any of our listeners something to take away, something to maybe invest in their own firm or invest in an associate that's working for them, please subscribe to our podcast, The Legal Edge, or leave us a review. We'll see you next time. I appreciate you joining. Thanks. I'm Rob Rosasco, and take care.